Every time I talked to a new girl, my mind would whisper, maybe this is the one. Just one kind smile, a little bit of attention, and my heart would jump, as if fate had just stepped into the room. It might sound romantic, but in reality, it was exhausting. Before I met Jenny, the woman who truly changed how I understand love, I went through this cycle again and again. Dozens of short-lived crushes, endless daydreams, and countless heartbreaks that often existed only in my own head. If you've ever felt like your heart falls too quickly, stick with me. Because today, I want to share the psychology behind why people like us fall in love so easily, and how we can finally build healthier, more balanced relationships. For years, I thought something was wrong with me. Why did I get attached so fast? Why did I imagine a whole future after just a few conversations? Why did I idealize every girl who showed me the slightest bit of attention? I would meet someone new, feel that spark, and suddenly my mind would race ahead, us together, us in love, maybe even us married someday. But when things faded, as they almost always did, I felt crushed, even though there hadn't been much of a relationship to begin with. Eventually, I learned this wasn't weakness, it wasn't brokenness, it was the result of patterns. Patterns shaped by childhood, attachment, biology, and society. And unless we recognize these patterns, we'll keep falling into the same illusions of love again and again. Through reflection therapy and a lot of painful experiences, I discovered 10 reasons why I fell in love so quickly. 1. Conditioned for romance. I was raised on stories that promised happiness through love, fairy tales, movies, love songs. They taught me that life only begins when you find your soulmate. So each time a girl showed me attention, I thought, this is it. The story is finally starting. But it wasn't love. It was me chasing a script that had been handed to me. 2. Sociosexuality, attraction to novelty. When I was younger, the thrill of novelty was intoxicating. Meeting someone new was like a shot of adrenaline. Psychologists call this sociosexuality, the tendency to engage in short-term connections. For me, it felt like fireworks. But fireworks fade quickly, and I mistook excitement for love again and again. 3. Anxious attachment. Because of my fear of abandonment, any girl who paid me attention instantly became the center of my world. If she texted me back fast, I felt secure. If she didn't, I panicked. I projected fantasies onto people I hardly knew, not because of who they were, but because of how desperately I wanted reassurance. 4. Limerence, obsessive infatuation. Limerence is that obsessive craving to be wanted back. I remember nights lying awake replaying a single smile or message, my mind looping it like evidence of destiny. But I wasn't in love with her. I was in love with the idea of being loved. When my feelings weren't returned, it hurt like withdrawal from an addiction. 5. Societal pressure. Everywhere I looked, I saw couples. Social media, family dinners, even casual conversations reinforced the idea that being single meant being incomplete. I felt behind. That pressure made me jump into connections I didn't truly want, just to prove I wasn't alone. 6. Addiction to the feeling of love. Falling in love floods your brain with dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. It's a chemical cocktail that feels euphoric. My face flushed, my chest tightened, my whole body buzzed. But when the high faded, I chased it again with someone new. I wasn't addicted to people, I was addicted to the chemistry of love. 7. Childhood experiences. This one cuts deep. Growing up, I didn't always feel emotionally secure. So when someone finally made me feel cared for, I clung to it with everything I had. My childhood had wired me to mistake small acts of kindness for proof of lasting love. 8. Confusing sex with love. Sometimes the physical attraction was so powerful it felt like destiny. I convinced myself lust was love. But when the passion cooled, so did the illusion. I realized that chemistry without connection is just a spark. Without firewood, it dies quickly. 9. Loneliness. There were nights I was so lonely that any girl who listened felt like salvation. I didn't fall in love with her. I fell in love with the relief she gave me from my own emptiness. That wasn't fair to her, and it wasn't fair to me. 10. Borderline personality traits. At times, my emotions were so intense they mirrored borderline tendencies. A simple gesture felt monumental. I idealized people instantly because the fear of being left alone was overwhelming. And so I dove headfirst into love without even knowing the other person. All 10 of these factors wove together into the patterns that made my heart restless and fragile. I wasn't broken, I was simply repeating cycles I hadn't yet understood. Breaking free wasn't easy. But here are the practices that slowly transformed me. 1. Journaling the truth. I forced myself to write about each girl I liked. Not the fantasy, but the facts. Did she really listen? Did she respect my boundaries? Did we share values? Journaling gave me a mirror that showed reality, not daydreams. 2. Slowing down. Instead of rushing to text constantly or imagine a future after one date, I practiced patience. I let time reveal who she truly was. I learned to enjoy the process instead of sprinting toward commitment. 3. Building self-worth. For too long, I believed love proved I was worthy. Without it, I felt invisible. So I worked on building value from within through friendships, passions, and self-compassion. The stronger I became on my own, the less desperate I was to be chosen. 4. Naming my triggers. When my anxious attachment flared like panicking over a late reply, I learned to say, "This is my fear of abandonment, not rejection." Naming it gave me power over it. 5. Seeking support. Therapy gave me tools I couldn't create alone. Talking about attachment wounds and old trauma helped me stop projecting them onto new relationships. 6. Practicing emotional balance. Instead of chasing the high of love, I built balance into my life. Exercise, meditation, hobbies, deeper friendships. They became anchors that kept me grounded. 7. Choosing, not just falling. The biggest change was shifting from falling to choosing. I asked, do I really want to build with this person, or am I just addicted to the spark? That single question saved me from countless illusions. And it was only through these habits, through slowing down, healing, and choosing intentionally, that I was finally able to recognize Jenny. She wasn't another fantasy. She wasn't another projection of my wounds. She was real. And this time, my heart was steady enough to see that clearly. Falling in love quickly isn't inherently wrong. Having an open heart is a beautiful gift, but when it's driven by unhealed patterns, it can trap us in cycles of disappointment and heartbreak. I lived in that cycle for years, girl after girl, fantasy after fantasy, until I finally learned to pause, to breathe, to heal. And that's why when I met Jenny, I knew it wasn't another illusion. It was real. So what about you? Do you recognize any of these patterns in yourself? Share your story in the comments. And if this resonated, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Because here at Hi Day Psych, we're learning to love without losing